Welcome to Innovations, the podcast where we talk about future technologies. Today we're diving into the world of snow removal and how the robotics industry is slowly changing our day-to-day routine. I'm your host, Anna Kolenka, and in today's episode we're speaking with Max Minikov, the visionary behind a robotic snow removal company, Nivoso. Hi, Max.
Anna, how's it going? Thanks so much for having me on.
Good, thank you for coming in. Max, tell us more about your snow removal robot. What inspired you to create it?
Yeah, so Nivoso is the manufacturer of outdoor maintenance robots. And what inspired me was actually when I was in, I think, fifth grade, I was 10, I was running an outdoor maintenance company called Go for Boys. So my buddy Will and I were going outside in the neighborhood and we were trying to make some extra money. So we were doing snow removal and lawn maintenance. But I really hated snow removal. It always was hard on my back. I didn't like going outside. I was always getting sweaty and cold. So for my sixth grade science fair project, I decided to build a remote controlled snow plow to kind of ease the pain of going outside doing snow removal for Gopher Boys. That's kind of where it started. It was my sixth grade science fair project. And then as I got into college, I decided to really push hard on, reigniting the project and turning it into some kind of business.
That's awesome. How does your robot work? Can you explain us a bit more about the technology behind it and how it's different from traditional snow removal methods?
Absolutely. So, traditional snow removal methods really focus on manual effort for removing the snow, either with shovels, snow blowers, or sometimes tractors, but there's still somebody on board the machine operating it. The whole idea behind Nivoso is really separating the human from the environment that the machine is in. So instead of being there physically pushing the machine around, now with one of Nivoso's robots, you can sit inside the truck or inside the building or even from afar remote operate the machines via onboard cameras and a remote. That allows you to kind of stay out of the elements, have a more comfortable working environment, and allows you to stay out there longer during these longer snowstorms. Obviously, as we push into the future, we're trying to create the robot to be fully self-driving, which will allow us to completely separate the human from the task and really automate the process.
I see. What are the primary benefits of using a robot for snow removal?
Yeah, the primary benefits is really just labor reduction for the snow removal company, but then also from the employee standpoint, from the person actually shoveling, it really reduces the pain of going outside and doing the job. Now they can sit inside the truck, which is heated and much more comfortable than being outside. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is, especially as a snow removal company, you might be out there for 18 hours straight, clearing different properties and just keeping all the sidewalks safe and accessible throughout a storm. That's a little bit different than going outside and shoveling your driveway for 30 minutes. So after 18 hours of clearing snow, you're going to feel a lot more fatigued. You're going to feel a lot more just tired from the actual activity of shoveling. And if you can create those 18 hours to be a little bit more comfortable for the shoveler, you can really benefit everybody from the company itself to the shoveler.
Yeah, I see. It's like a snow Roomba. You mentioned in one of your interviews. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, the Roomba is a robot vacuum for the home, which, helps clean up your floors. And, originally we had focused on a robot that's a little bit smaller that looked a little bit more like a Roomba, and it was specifically made for clearing the driveway. We've since put that on hold and are now only focusing on commercial applications. So, clearing commercial real estate, clearing hospitals, nursing homes, university campuses. But in the beginning, it was, a Roomba for snow is supposed to be a self-driving little robot for clearing your driveway.
We have heard a lot about how the robot works, but what about the bigger picture? How does this technology fit into the broader landscape of automation and robotics? Max, automation is a big trend in many industries. How do you see the role of robotics in everyday life, especially in areas like snow removal?
I think we're going to start seeing robots more and more as we see technological advances, as we see people become more and more accepting of robots in their day-to-day life. We're already seeing that on campus with the Starship robots for delivering food, and I think we're going to keep seeing that more and more as this technology becomes more available. I think the first place where we're going to see robots more is within tasks that are either easily automated and repetitive or are very dangerous for humans. At the end of the day, there's no need to replace a task that's safe for somebody and that is very dynamic, where there's always something changing. But, if it's something like potentially food delivery, where it's on the same sidewalks every single day and on campus, or if it's in harsh environments like a mining operation or in snow removal, it makes sense to put robots there because we no longer have to worry about either a human being at risk of some type of injury or just doing a repetitive task that could be done by a machine. So that's where I see it kind of in our day-to-day life. But for snow removal specifically, I think we're going to start seeing the robots specifically doing sidewalks, because sidewalks, again, are an environment that don't change. They're very easy to map out for a robot, just like why Starships, the food delivery robots, work. And then soon we're going to start seeing it more and more on parking lots, and then also within other areas, probably going onto public roads at some point as well.
Definitely. Nivoso is definitely not something that you build just like in one day. What are some of the challenges your company faced in developing this technology?
I think one of the biggest challenges we faced was with the autonomous aspect of the robot. To make a robot drive by itself, there's actually a lot more to it than you'd expect. I think people are kind of now used to like a Tesla, or they're used to the self-driving cars in California and Phoenix called Waymo. But, self-driving is actually a lot harder than you would expect, especially in these dynamic environments that are changing all the time. That has probably been our biggest challenge, trying to get the robots to drive themselves, and not only just drive themselves, but drive themselves safely. Like, even a Roomba will have a failure rate of, some percentage, even if it's a very small fraction of a percent. And that's really dangerous if you have an 800-pound robot clearing snow. So I think one of the biggest things we've learned, and the biggest challenge that we've overcome, is actually taking a step back and going from self-driving to just remote operated at first. Because when you really break down the problem of like worker fatigue and being in harsh environments, even remote operations does solve that problem. Maybe not 100% of the way, but it does solve the problem to some extent and provides value. So instead of trying to go from 0 to 100, we need to first go to from 0 to 1.
Definitely. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys already have a couple customers. Is there any feedback that you have received from early users?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are working with some of our early customers and also doing some contracts as well that help us not only bring in revenue, but get a lot of feedback. The biggest piece of feedback that we've learned was just really simplifying the robot. Originally, like I said, we really wanted to be autonomous. That's what we worked on, and that's what we were trying to deploy. But again, we learned from our customers that if we really broke down the problem, the robot could be a lot simpler than it originally had to be. So that was probably, again, one of the biggest pieces of feedback we got, which was, hey, let's reduce the number of features and let's just get some kind of minimal viable product out there to solve the actual issue, which is moving snow, rather than, autonomy and all these other features.
Definitely. How do you envision the future of robotic snow removal?
I think as we move into the future, I can see robots automating the jobs more and more. There's still going to be probably a human in the loop to make sure the robot is being safe. So it's not going to eliminate workers necessarily. And I think workers will be more focused on the nitty-gritty tasks like shoveling the stairs where robots can't go, putting salt down where the robots don't fit, and just overall keeping the property maintained and getting the last 10% of detail done. But as we move into the future, I do see robots automating sidewalks and parking lot snow removal and salt dispersal. And then again, because Nivoso is focusing on outdoor maintenance as a whole, I think we're going to see robots automate these bigger spaces faster than the more detailed work, like potentially edging the side of a property or, pruning trees, but instead working on the field.
Definitely. This episode is brought to you by Nivoso. If you're tired of the cold weather and the hassle of snow removal, check out Max Minikov's products that will make your winter easier and warmer. Let's talk more about the future. What's next for your company? Are you planning to stay in Minnesota?
Yeah, so again, Nivoso is really trying to build out an outdoor maintenance robot. So that's not going to just be for snow removal, but we're also looking at other sectors of outdoor maintenance like lawn maintenance, and then also other, tasks in commercial real estate where you not only are, trying to help with lawn, but you're also helping with fertilizer and everything else. So, what's the biggest next step for Nivoso? It's actually creating more attachments for the robot to be useful in other environments. When it comes to the location, because again, snow is only going to be a small factor of the entire business, I think moving to an environment where we can test in those other, fields and, other, different use cases, it's okay to not be in a snowy state. And I think the best place for Nivoso right now would probably be California. California has probably the largest density of tech talent, especially in robotics. That's where, a lot of these larger companies are headquartered in tech, and that's where you'll find the largest amount of engineers. Also, Stanford is is in California, and Stanford has a very, very strong robotics program that's going to really help us with growing our full-time team. So, we have to look at a bunch of different states that we could move to. Obviously, New York is a big one as well. They actually get a lot more snow than Minnesota, and they also have a great pool of tech talent. But California or New York are probably the top two picks for us right now, especially as we're trying to add new attachments that will be useful in those environments as well.
Yeah. How do you see AI impact robotics?
AI is going to help robots be smarter with edge cases. You see, like when you're programming a robot, you basically have to assume that the robot itself, being a computer, only knows what you tell it. It doesn't know anything else. And there are so many edge cases where you really don't realize that robot would have dealt with this edge case. And because of that, it's hard to code for every different thing that could possibly happen. Like you told the robot that it is going to have to drive in a straight line, and that's great. But what if the robot drives over a crack and that physically moves the robot to a different direction, or the robot even gets stuck? Now what does the robot do? Now, for a human, that might be obvious. Like it just needs to maybe try rolling over it again or just correct its position. But the robot doesn't know that. You have to code everything. And it's almost impossible to get the robot to know every little scenario that can happen. And the way I see AI playing into this is once you have the AI be intelligent enough to just know everything, you can upload the AI, quote unquote, essentially, into the robot system, and the AI can, on the spot, reason through each scenario in a very smart manner and adjust the controls for the robot. So instead of having to code every single possible scenario into the system, which is practically impossible, you can now let the AI make decisions on the spot rather than a human having to come in and fix where the robot is going. That's where I really see AI making a huge impact in robotics.
Definitely. As we're getting closer to the end, Max, tell us, what is one lesson you learned about entrepreneurship in this journey?
I think entrepreneurship is seen as this like really cool thing, these business people or engineers coming together to build something really cool. And I think although that's true, there's a lot of pain behind building a company. And a lot of those things aren't always apparent in the beginning. Like when you just start, you kind of have this moment where everybody's giving you praise, you're getting all this traction right from the beginning because you just started. But there is a very long period of time in an entrepreneurial journey where people are kind of telling you like, hey, this is kind of not working out. Hey, this isn't maybe the best idea. There's this new trend. Like, why don't you change entirely to just fit the trend? And it becomes really hard. And that period of time goes on for quite a while. I mean, it could be months, years even. And I think that's where most entrepreneurs fail because they don't see the vision through all the way. But if you look at the story of basically any successful entrepreneur, you'll see that every single one of them basically had this moment of, hey, maybe I should give up. Hey, this is maybe not the best idea. And the ones that succeed are the ones that just keep pushing through. So I think it's really important to understand that entrepreneurship isn't this like glorious thing at all times. And the best way to get through these moments of hardship, which every entrepreneur will face, is actually working on something you're truly passionate about. Not passionate about it because it's the trend or because it sounds good, but because you personally really care about the cause and you personally are very interested in what you're doing because you're going to be doing it a lot more than just a normal full-time job. So that's been my biggest lesson. Do what you are truly passionate about. Understand there will be very large, portions of your entrepreneurship journey that are full of hardship. And the only way to actually succeed is to get through that hardship by doing something you're interested in.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening to today's episodes of Innovations. And a special thanks to Max for sharing insights into the exciting future of snow removal robotics.
Thank you so much for having me, Anna. This was awesome.
Thank you. See you later.